Hey y'all, it's Deb and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be in the kitchen and I'm going to show you how to make homemade sandwich bread. The recipe and the technique that I'm going to show you today is the same thing that you would use to make hamburger buns or cinnamon rolls, dinner rolls, or cinnamon twists and pizza dough. You're going to follow the exact same measurements, the same recipe. The only difference is after the first rise, you would just shape it into what you're looking for. As far as the butter in the recipe, I have a really good friend of mine who is a chemist, and one time I was making bread and when I pulled it out of the oven, it had not browned at all. And I was waiting for it to brown to pull it out of the oven thinking that then it would be done. Well, she and I went over the recipe that I had used and turned out there was no fat in it. Your bread needs some type of fat in order to get that beautiful brown color. You can use any kind of oil or butter. We just prefer the taste of the butter. You're gonna see me using sugar. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, you can use honey or maple syrup or whatever you feel comfortable with. However, don't omit the sweetener. Your yeast needs something to feed on while it's doing its job of lifting your bread. Okay, one last thing before we get started. When it comes to this channel, I care about every single way that we can figure out ways to save money. Making homemade bread is not always the cheapest. Right now in my area, which is South Florida, Walmart has their loaf bread for $1. Now, it's not the best thing in the world and it tastes a little bit like paper, but when you're in a financial crunch, buy the bread. However, if you already have flour, yeast, sugar, and some butter and salt here at home, and water, of course, if you have all of those things at home, now your bread is free, 1. 2, it tastes much better. Nobody would argue that point. And 3, you know all the ingredients that are in there. Now that we've gone all over that, let's get started making our bread. I have 1 cup of hot water, it's 110 degrees, and to that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of yeast and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Then I'm going to whisk that together and we're going to give the yeast time to wake up. It'll take about 5 minutes. There are 3 cups of all-purpose flour in my mixing bowl, and to that I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 cup of melted butter. After 5 minutes, check your yeast mixture, look for the foam on the top and about 1/2 inch of foam on the side. This is why I like to use a glass container. Taking a spatula, you're going to scrape all of that yeasty, great smelling goodness into your bowl with your flour mixture. All you need is your dough hook and let that begin to incorporate. Let me share this tip. When you look at a recipe, and especially depending on where you live, if you're in a humid climate like me, your measurements may look a little bit different than someone who lives in a much drier area like Arizona. When you look at bread recipes, especially ones that require kneading and rising and that kind of a thing, if you have too much flour, your dough is too dry, there's kind of no going back. The best thing that you can do is start with the smallest amount of flour. You can always add more flour into your dough if you feel like your dough is just way too sticky. What you can't really do is undo it if it's too dry and too crumbly. Here's what I like to do because I don't like to waste food. I keep an eye on it while it's mixing and forming into the dough ball. If I notice that it's super dry, like old Play-Doh and crumbly, I can very quickly add some water that's 110 degrees, just like when you wake up your yeast, and I'll add a couple tablespoons at a time until the dough becomes sticky like I like it. The problem is you can't do that once you start kneading the dough. So that is a huge tip. Thought I would throw that in there. Let's get back to the bread. Watch for your dough to form a ball and to start pulling away from the bowl. You want your dough ball to be a little sticky, but not to the point where it sticks to your hands. Watch my hand when I pull it away. I prefer to knead mine by hand, taking the dough onto my counter and pulling it and pushing it corner to corner. Also, you can take the dough directly in front of you and just do quarter turns and quarter folds. Mainly what we're doing is just getting the gluten to form. Now take some cooking spray and spray a glass or plastic or metal bowl, just something big enough for the dough to rise in. Your dough should be smooth and feel like fresh, brand new Play-Doh. Dump it in there, cover it with a towel, and let it rise for an hour. The dough will have doubled in size, and now it's ready for the shaping. This is the point when you can make yeast rolls, cinnamon twists, or cinnamon rolls, but since we're making bread, we're going to shape it like this. Put your bread dough into the greased pan. You're going to cover it with a tea towel and let it rise again for 45 minutes. Woo-hoo! Ain't she pretty? Now she's ready to bake. Set your oven to 325 and let it preheat. Cook for 30 minutes or until done. So I know I look different than the last time you saw me, but let me explain. So one of the things that I've learned the hard way is that anytime I do a recipe that is time intensive, like making fresh bread like this, it's rising for an hour the first time, and then it has to rise for 45 minutes the second time, and then you have to wait for it to bake for 30 minutes. Some people shy away from recipes like that because of that. However, try to plan it out when you need to get a workout in, which is what I did. So I got my exercise done, got my shower done, changed clothes, the whole thing. You can make your meal plan, you can make your grocery list, you can fold a load of laundry or do a load of dishes, you can clean up the kitchen while you're waiting. Try to plan when you're gonna make your bread, when you know you're gonna be home and you've got other things that you know you've gotta do. There is no better feeling than when the house is clean, the laundry's done, and here comes fresh bread right out of the oven. So I just wanted to encourage you with that. Throughout the rest of the video, that's why you're gonna see me look a little bit different. I can already smell the bread. It smells so good. I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like when it comes out. Here it is, all done, fresh out of the oven. I wish you could smell it. It smells amazing. So what my family likes is for me to top it with melted butter as soon as it comes out of the oven. After I do this, I'm going to loosen it up and get it out of the pan and put it on a cooling rack. I don't think many things in life can top the flavor of fresh homemade bread right out of the oven. I hope y'all try this recipe. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Y'all have a great day.